And now, live from England, bringing you news and analysis that you won't find on the corporate and government mainstream media. It's the WideShut Webcast.
Yes, indeed. Everything is everything. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I am, of course, your host, Keelan Balderson. And for all of my articles and videos, be sure to check out wideshut.co.uk. And for the network and Brits articles, it's resistradio.com. Apologies for not doing a show last week. I was en route back from Prague. And what an interesting journey that was. I'd never actually flown before I went on this trip. So all my knowledge of airport security obviously came from other people. But now I've experienced it firsthand. What a load of bollocks that was. Okay, so you're allowed to take liquids on planes now. But only 100 milliliters per bottle. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to prevent, because, I mean, you can have 10 of these 100 milliliter bottles. I guess they've never considered that terrorists may mix chemicals together from different bottles. But, then of course, these bottles have to be placed in a clear plastic bag, like a little freezer bag or whatever, because they have to see what you're taking in, but the bottles themselves don't have to be clear. So, again, I'm not particularly sure what exactly they're preventing with this strange security measure. I mean, you could put anything in the bottle. They're not going to know. But rest assured, because they sell the clear plastic bags at the airport for 50p. So if you did forget to bring your clear bag that actually doesn't show anything in your bottles, because your bottles aren't clear, it's alright, because the airport will sell you one. Lovely. Now, obviously, I'm being a bit facetious. You'd be hard-pressed to find a terrorist incident over the years that's involved planes that hasn't, to some degree, involved the intelligence agencies themselves. Obviously, 9/11 is the big one. Just something easy you could pull up. Who fast-tracked their visas, the terrorist visas? Well, it just happened to be the CIA from their phony consulate in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Of course, we also had Lockerbie. I'm not 100% convinced who was behind Lockerbie, but it certainly wasn't Libya. People have testified that the evidence used to finger Libya was basically fraudulent. The underpants bomber, we didn't revoke his visa despite him being on a watch list, and then he just so happened to be escorted onto the plane. We've had Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, who just happened to be radicalized by Abu Hamza, an admitted informant for British intelligence, who was allowed to operate in Britain with immunity. So there are so many contrived layers to this system, and it's always the well-meaning people that are bearing the brunt of it, bearing the brunt of their lies. The war on terror is a creation of the West and Israel for the West and Israel. It's that simple. What do a few bearded nutjobs gain from a terrorist attack? What has this helped Afghanistan since 9/11? Did they win a war anytime recently? Why would they want to do that? So they can brag to their bearded buddies in the cave next door? Doesn't make any sense. But what do the West and Israel have to gain from terrorist attacks? Well, they can dominate the Middle East. They can dominate the oil and other resources in these places. They can put bases and networks in place ready for a second Cold War or some kind of conflict with China. And most importantly, it allows them to have a population that will do whatever they say because they're afraid of the, quote, terrorists that they've conjured up out of thin air. Now, obviously, there is extremist Islam, but most of these major events were not necessarily born with extremist Islam. They were groomed, positioned into place. And it will get them a population that will willingly fanny about for an hour, trying to get their 100 milliliter bottles into their clear plastic bag, despite no actual method to determine what's inside the bottles. It's not about protecting you. If it was about protecting you, they wouldn't be involved in the actual terror attacks to begin with, would they? It's about controlling you, conditioning you to their authority. And it's also about making profits. I mean, the security firms that are hired to do these things, they obviously get paid. The people that produce the security equipment, all the new fangled weaponry, all the body scanners, people get paid to make that crap. And if you forget your plastic bag, the airlines get a bit of money because they sell you one for 50p. And the absurdness of, like, I just hate flying. I've only been once now, but I hate it already. It's absurd. Our plane was delayed for an hour because some students had basically boarded the plane without some of their teachers. Basically, like, the teachers were just not there yet, were in the toilet or whatever, I don't know. And there weren't enough adults for the amount of children or something silly like that. But the ninnying about, the airport staff are complete morons. You know, oh, should we let them on? Shouldn't we let them on? Oh, but the gate's closed. Once it's closed, well, open the fucking thing then. Just let them on the plane. You know, God has spoken. The gate is now shut. You just got to press the button again. It's fine. It's fine. It's all right. The world's not going to fall off its axis. Nobody engages their brains anymore. I mean, do you really think these white European teachers were Al Qaeda? Does being late to a flight, does that make you a terrorist? And it's not like they weren't going to go through security. It's only CIA patsies that get escorted past security, let's be honest. And people were moaning and tutting. It's not their fault. It's retards that are running the airlines. And then, of course, you get the air stewardesses doing their little dances. Oh, the exits are here. And they're not even pointing at any exits. They're just flopping their arms about. Oh, I don't know. What a load of bleh. Oh, and this is without mentioning the groping. Let's not forget the groping. What you have to do, you have to put all your things in like a little X-ray conveyor belt, and then it goes through the little zappy bit, and it radiates all your stuff. And I showed the lady my belt. I said, "Look, I've got a belt." And I showed the lady my shoes. I said, "Look, there's a big metal badge thing on this shoe." And she said, "No, it's fine. Just go through the metal detector." So I walked through the metal detector, knowing it was going to go off, and it went off. So because I blindly listened to authority, I now had to be groped by authority. Because, of course, if you have a belt, you're a terrorist. They have to make that giant leap forward. Oh, no, metal means you're a terrorist. Does it? Surely if you're a terrorist, that means you're a terrorist. Just on every level, none of it makes any sense. It's just about conditioning people. You didn't listen to the rules, so now you must feel the consequences. Apart from the fact that I was told to go through it. I mean, they don't want to listen to that, do they? Maybe I was set up. Maybe these pervs set me up. They saw me coming and thought, oh, we'll have that one. Because I remember the two guys. One guy leans into the other guy. This is literally what he said. He said, "I'll do him." Excuse me, you'll do what to me? He was a little too enthusiastic for my liking. And yeah, it's funny, you've got your mates laughing and all that. I mean, I didn't feel that violated, I don't really care, but if I had the choice, I wouldn't particularly want to be dealt up by a fat bald man. Really? Is that what our lives have come to? Oh, I don't know. And there may be some people listening to this at some point that think I'm overreacting. You know, we need to be protected. Well, if you can find any logic in any of that security procedure, I'd like to hear about it. It was a silly charade. It wasn't about protecting anybody. You know, I could have bottled the pilot with my duty-free absinthe and blown the plane up with all my 100 milliliter liquids that they don't look at. And I'm not saying that we need more security. The war on terror is a fraud. But if they're going to try and keep the illusion alive, don't insult my intelligence with this bullshit. Luckily, there weren't any naked body scanners, and they've actually started taking them out of UK airports because, wait for it, fears they may cause cancer. They knew that all along. Experts from day one were telling them, look, this is going to cause you cancer. It's obvious that X-rays cause cancer. That's why the dentist has to leave the room when they zap you at the dentist. But no, they had to make Michael Chertoff a bit of money. They had to scare everybody for a little while. They'll probably bring them back and say, oh, they're now safe again. You know, in a few months when something else stupid happens. They'll probably rewrite the definition of what dangerous levels of X-rays are. Where do we draw the line? I went through it. Bit of peer pressure. Didn't want to ruin the holiday with the lads. But I mean, is that what we do now? Do we just put up with all of this as long as we get our holidays? Are we happy just being little slaves to their authority? People are too focused, and I'm guilty of it too, of course I am. But people are too focused on their own tiny perspective of their lives. They don't even see the control system. It's like gravity or something. You know, gravity is part of Earth. It's a given. And to most people, government and the force of government and an elite class is also a given. They don't even think about it. What would happen if we didn't have government? Ooh, we can't think about that. Why not? Is this it? Is this the best we can do? And some people will get so angry at different sectors of society, whether it's the EDL, you know, getting all rolled up against the Muslims and blaming everything on the Muslims, or people that get really worked up about people on benefits. It's divide and conquer. Look beyond the labels and the boxes and the enemies that the media gives to you. The other day, this person I know on Facebook wrote this big status going off on uni students and how she thought they got a free ride on our tax money and how she couldn't afford to go out, but those at uni were just using their free loans. And then obviously uni students piled on, firing back saying, oh, we struggle too, we have to pay bills, I work nights, and all this stuff. People seem to have this idea that there's this big magical pie floating up there somewhere, probably, you know, up there with Big Brother or something, in the clouds. And they think that certain sectors of society are stealing their piece of the pie. There's no fucking pie. Some fat control freak banker, some corporation, some corrupt government have already eaten the pie a long fucking time ago. And they want you to pay money to bake more pies, so they can steal some more pies. There's no fucking pie. Stop getting angry at each other. We're all on the same planet. Life is too short, and you're focusing on the wrong people. If you're going to get angry at the fascist pigs that fucked everybody else over. Everybody. Everybody is doing worse off than they did 10 years ago. Instead of fighting over the bone that the elite have thrown down to us, as if that's just the way it is, we need to realise that we are all in this together, and the only way to bring change is to work together. Stop getting focused on all these little stupid arguments. You know, just because you spent your entire life working your ass off, paying into a system, believing in the illusion, doesn't mean anybody owes you anything. You were stupid enough to buy into it. Don't feel entitled to the system because you believed in it. And instead of desperately clinging on to it, every last scrap as it collapses, how about you come back and join humanity again? So it can make it a better place to live, instead of being all bitter and infighting with each other. But anyway, I'm going to go to a quick break, and then I'll come back with some headlines instead of ranting. Let me find some immortal technique.
You get up and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scamming, jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfucker. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, pour out a little Louis XIII, Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head, my real South niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day peppering America overseas, pension for the workers, nigga please, embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement, I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut, foreclosure big hoes out the tenement, I twist words like a speech impediment, I hope you got good credit bitch, if not better get a new job with benefits, while I play golf with niggas and get cheddar with, new money buys brand new carrots, my old money bunch of great grandparents, you got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at ya, I own every gold mine in South Africa, thanks baby you made me a billion, plus I own a building, for each one of my children's children, that's the shit, snort coke in the whip, Miss USA sucking my dick, yeah what, fuck the law cause real jailers for suckers, I go to country club, prison you dumb motherfuckers, I am the 1%, fucking bitches, yeah, you know my CEO corporate steez, please, overthrow governments overseas in a breeze, politicians in my pockets for a few hundred G's, so if I'm ever in court, my assets are never free. I got a job and a house and a bank account. When I'm out, I doubt that's something you could say. And if not, then a fake death like Kenneth Slade. Make money every day the world burns on its access. While y'all struggling to pay taxes, I'm getting my money the fastest. Memos and faxes, shredded up documents, slush funds through the corrupt continents. But they don't want me indicted, cause they don't want my dirty laundry aired when I fight it. So get my lawyers excited, cause what good is the law if you can't rewrite it? I got CIA traitors, dictators, so fuck y'all whistleblowers and haters. Shit, I'll invest money from Al-Qaeda in the bank, 9/11 widows go too late to capitalism, so I pray to fuck the state of the world. Money talks, so what the fuck I need to say to your girl? I don't pay them to fuck, I pay them to leave. You know my CEO corporate steez, greed. I treat countries like the IMF, down on your knees. Real gangsters run the world, fuck what you believe. I cut down the forest while y'all niggas burning some trees. I get your family murdered for a couple of G's, cause your working class money ain't fucking with me. You think rappers are rich cause of songs you heard? My labels make the money and have it rap the fucking word. Y'all in the ocean coasting with the sails out. Hey America, thanks for the bailouts. I made off at the Banco Ambrosiano. Got away scot-free like El Vaticano. Activists get mad at me cause I'm a tax-free charity. 80% to the staff and company and 20% to the homeless and hungry. The country gotta pay the Fed Reserve. Kick back to the banksters, haven't you learned? You protest cops and patrols on the street, but I bought City Hall so I own the police. Emails, Facebook, and the shit you tweet. on a phone company, so I heard you speaking. My suggestion is no correction, no election, sex with no affection, no invention to benefit the world. A man will exist till I got the money in my hand. World bank, interest rate, damn rates on the spot. But I'm a gangster, you gon' take my money like it or not, nigga. I got your country in my pocket, motherfucker. You know my CEO Masonic Steve cheese. Only little people pay all these taxes and fees. Since you were born, we control what you watch and you read. And pretty soon we're gonna own the fucking air that you breathe. I take what I want, fucker, I don't have to say please. I convince you that it's good for you. Take it and leave. You think presidents are the face of a nation? I put them up.
Okay, welcome back. That was Immortal Technique. Somebody that doesn't support SOPA and somebody that says download my music for free. So, I mean, if you can make music that good for free, why would we want to pay anybody else? I'm happy with downloading his music. But anyway, welcome back to the WideShut Webcast. And we're going to jump into some headlines. Are you an occupier? Well, a new video game calls you a terrorist. And I'll paste that link into the chat. And it's all connected. This fits right in with the whole airport security thing. Because you are the terrorists. They're training you to take the brunt of everything. Oh, the terrorists hate our freedoms. What, so we give our freedoms away anyway? That doesn't make sense. It's all for us. It's all about widening the goalposts of what a terrorist actually is. Rainbow Six The Patriots, a Tom Clancy-themed video game set for release in 2013, contains what should be a very controversial storyline. Set in a not-too-distant future, the game pits the player, leader of an elite anti-terror team, against patriots and occupiers, who are alarmingly labelled as terrorists. See, despite the intelligence agencies continually funding terrorism, working with the terrorists, most recently giving Libya to Al-Qaeda, a group that we essentially created, the West essentially created. We're also now seeing terrorism in Iran carried out by the intelligence agencies, now openly admitted in the media. It's been going on for a long time. They've covertly funded groups like Jundullah, but now it's just out in the open. We're in there, we're assassinating people, we're the good guys. Just because they say they are. You know, despite shipping drugs into the ghettos to fund their illegal terrorism and to halt the Black Power movement, particularly in LA, despite all the torture and all the illegal assassinations, in this video game, the anti-terror team, the intelligence agencies, are the good guys. Like they are in most films and TV shows. Well, in reality, where I live, they're the bad guys. They're the ones carrying out the covert ops, the false flags, and so on. So, from the get-go, there's subtle propaganda there. That you're playing the good guy, the elite anti-terror team, Team America, yeah. It's all bullshit. Increasingly, the US government are labelling the politically active and even regular citizens as terrorists. The 2009 Missouri State MIAC report on the modern militia movement effectively labelled legal gun owners, libertarians and Ron Paul supporters, anti-war activists, and the very men coming back from those wars as potential domestic terrorists. And that's the sick irony of it all. They start all these illegal wars of aggression, all based on lies. They create this phony myth of the terrorist, and then they brainwash young men to go fight in these phony wars. And when they come back after fighting the wars for these suits, they're called the terrorists. How brazen can you be? And granted, some, in fact, a lot of returning soldiers are completely fucked in the head. You can't blame them. Generally, they kill themselves. But some do take it out on others. But do we blame them, or do we look at Bush and Cheney and Obama, do they get any blame in any of this? The people that ordered these wars to start and to carry on? And why call them terrorists? What is it about that word? Of course, let's not forget the old quote from Henry Kissinger: military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for foreign policy. They think you're dumb. They think you actually buy into this hero bullshit. You're not heroes, and they don't care about you. They're calling you a terrorist. Countless Big Brother-style anti-terror adverts and homeland security warnings have insinuated that regular daily activities like paying with cash could mean you're a terrorist. If you've got my YouTube, there's a video I put up a year or so ago from TalkSport, a radio show over here in England, a pretty big one. And they had one of these fear-mongering adverts, this guy lives on a bus route, so he shuts his curtain. He pays in cash. He could be a terrorist. Or he could be somebody that doesn't want to get into debt with your credit cards and likes his privacy. And officials the world over have had the gall to suggest occupiers are terrorists without batting an eyelid at the financial terrorist causing the economic recession. It seems this widening of the terrorist definition is hitting perhaps the most important stage, entertainment, where the average person's opinions are formed. So, they're telling police in some American states that regular citizens may be terrorists. You've got all these homeland security warnings. It's been hinted at in the media, anarchists are terrorists, occupiers may be a terrorist threat. But remember, there's still a large section of society that doesn't really watch the news. A lot of people I know still don't know what Occupy is. So to get them acclimatized to this redefinition, they're going to have to do it through other means, through entertainment. Now, there's nothing wrong with entertainment as long as you're aware that that's all it is, entertainment. There's nothing wrong with playing video games or watching movies, but you have to be in control of your own mind to be able to think critically and kind of disseminate what you're watching. A lot of people don't do that. They just zone out and then they start, basing their lives on characters in films and stuff. That's when it gets dangerous. Here's a quote here from Edward Bernays, who was the godfather of public relations. The conscious and intelligent manipulation of the organized habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. I like how he says democratic society. What he really means is a society ran by the elite with the illusion of democracy. But you get what he's saying. He's saying we need to shape people's opinions, and it's fine to do that. The article goes on. Without sounding cliche, I hope Heretic's not listening, how would we interpret a film released during World War II that showed armed German citizens fighting back against the Nazi Party, but where the citizens were terrorists and the Nazis were Germany's last hope of survival? That appears to be the bizarre propagandist flavour of the latest instalment of the video game series. And this is what the blurb reads about the game. Terrorism has evolved and America is under attack. Capitalizing on the sense of frustration in a nation seemingly corrupted by greedy politicians and corporate special interests, a group of US citizens turned radicals, the true patriots, will stop at nothing to overthrow the government and financial institutions. As a leader of the elite Rainbow Counter-Terrorism Unit, players will be the last line of defense, tasked with saving the nation no matter what cost. Are we like living in 1984 or what? The way they just flip that around. So now they're saying protecting bankers is how we save America. Now obviously none of us, and I would hope none of the Occupy movement, want violence, but America is under attack by the greedy politicians and the corporate special interests and the banksters. We do need to overthrow the government, or at least outvote them, or change the system. We do need to get rid of the financial system. But in one sentence, I can't wait to actually see the game, but in one sentence they've managed to equate government and corporations and banking as being America. They've totally twisted reality. Why don't they make a game where you're a peaceful protester? I guess it's not fun enough. You can't, gun everybody down, but these patriots will be portrayed as gun-wielding, civilian-murdering militias rather than peaceful occupiers, but that's besides the point. It's the very causes the characters are fighting for that may end up warping the minds of the wider public. The official trailer for the game has this piece of dialogue from the patriots, and you can see it on the link. This is the day we've been waiting for. This is for the jobs you've streamlined, the debts you've collected. This is for the homes you foreclosed on, the bailouts you took. We are the true patriots. It's time for a new balance of power. You may not answer to the government, but you will answer to us. Let's play armchair psychologist for a moment. First off, let's admit that the game may have absolutely no bearing beyond being a pretty fun shooter. It does, however, have the potential to be a damaging piece of propaganda if widely received. The Occupy movement and the general counterculture that is developing around the world are, like the game's counterparts, sick of the corrupt system and the fascist ties between corporation and state, including the bailout and mortgage fiasco. But generally speaking, armed revolution is the furthest thing from their minds. Although the media haven't been fair from the beginning, this game could help further tarnish the movement's image. You're against the lobbyist-controlled government. You want reforms of the Ponzi financial system. You want the bailouts to stop. Then you may be a dangerous terrorist trying to destroy America, as opposed to the real terrorists trying to destroy America. But that's how propaganda works. Could it also prompt violent revolution in those with unstable minds? Or could it act as a release valve where those looking for change would rather just stay in their rooms and play video games where they're martyred, rather than doing any kind of real protesting? It's too early to tell what impact the game will have, but the word terrorist is getting awfully close to home, and when this year's NDAA Act in America allowed the indefinite detention of US citizens suspected of terrorism, it's a word that needs to be clearly defined. And I would agree with that. I mean, if you can arrest anyone on suspicion of being a terrorist when they're starting to label normal people as terrorists, and when the biggest terrorist organization that they cite in the war on terror is something they had a strong hand in creating, then, people need to be worried. And obviously most games are absolutely harmless. I did a show arguing that point. I play games quite often. But to me, this is the purest form of propaganda that I've seen in a game in a long time. I don't know whether it's deliberate propaganda, I can't prove that. I've not spent the time looking at the funders of the game company or whatever. It could simply be that, the producers or Tom Clancy, I'm not sure how much of a role he really plays, but maybe they know the system. They know what to write in order for it to be promoted and in order for them to get paid. I think that's what most people misunderstand about the quote grand conspiracy. It's not as hands-on as people think it is. There's not like an agent sitting in every newspaper company, even though there's only a few newspaper companies. But there's not like somebody sitting there saying, you must write this. It's not as blatant as that. But if something suits the agenda, it's going to get promoted. It's going to get, wide coverage. The author, of this imaginary article or whatever, they might not know why they're suddenly getting all this attention and are being asked to do interviews and are being invited to think tank workshops or whatever. And his ego will just tell him that he deserves it and that he's just doing well. But that is one way that propaganda gets pushed to the forefront. It doesn't necessarily have to be conscious. And if everyone is already adjusted to the system, then they're just going to perpetuate the system they live in. Why is there so much garbage on television? It's because rubbish, mediocrity, or things that suit the agenda are the only things that are acknowledged by the system as being worth being put on telly. It's as simple as that. People are rewarded for the rubbish that they put out, and that becomes the pedestal of what is good. They just redefine what good TV is, and it becomes self-fulfilling. Look at the music industry. Now most young people think to make money and to be famous in the music industry, you have to auto-tune your voice and take the really rubbish elements of rap music and the really rubbish elements of electronic music and put them together. So you sound like a robot on crack. And kids go out and they listen to that because that's all that's promoted. And then when some of those somewhat talented kids get older, they just carry on the same bullshit into the next generation because that's all they know. It's the dumbing down effect. It's not all doom and gloom though, because the mainstream media and entertainment are losing viewers and readers. And we're going to jump to our next headline today. Mainstream press continue losing popularity. As much as the mainstream press and entertainment journals like to pretend that they're still running the show and arrogantly charge advertisers far more than their actual reach, year after year they're losing more readers to free alternatives on the internet. New statistics released by the National Federation of Retail News Agents show that price is one of the main factors. Why pay for a physical magazine or newspaper when the majority of the coverage can be found faster at the click of a button for free, especially during a recession? Of 1,400 consumers surveyed, around 60% said they read fewer commercial newspapers or magazines than a year ago as a cost-cutting measure. 43% of those surveyed said newspapers had gone up in price over the past year despite the recession, and 59% said that due to the increasing prices, they have considered stopping regular purchases. It's this greed that will kill the mainstream press. Over the years, they've gotten used to certain profit margins and certain monopolies. Now the internet is proving faster, more accessible, and in many respects more sincere and accurate. The dinosaurs are throwing a tantrum, jacking up prices to keep their profit levels and attempting to turn their online counterparts into subscription services, a venture that has failed for all that have tried. The NFRN is mounting what they call an overwhelming case for the Office of Fair Trading to review the newspaper and magazine industry and their unrealistic services. Of course, why try to save them? Surely the best thing to do would be to let the dinosaurs go extinct and the soaring online market can take its rightful place at the top of the heap. It might not be an easy battle, however. Many of the top mainstream news outlets support the controversial SOPA bill, US legislation that would create a global authority to take down websites with even the thinnest relationship to online piracy. Linking to another website with a copyrighted picture on it, for example, could have your site practically deleted from the internet. If they're looking for a monopoly on news, it would be very easy to wipe out thousands of independent news blogs that have been careless with images or links. The fight for free and honest information continues. And that's really why they're going after the internet, because it's really the last form of communication that big corporations don't yet control. I mean, they've got their fingers in the pie, but it's not centrally controlled. And it's one thing I think they're not going to be able to control. I don't think that they're going to get these bills passed. You know, they'll come back, they'll rewrite it and stuff, but I just don't think they'll be able to do it. They may infiltrate, anonymous, I've always had suspicions about that, fake cyber attacks and whatever, but I think there's just too many people, too many geeks that know exactly how to bypass all of this stuff for them to actually be able to control it. It's too late. I mean, everyone with a website could just agree to put up a copyrighted image. What, are they gonna take everybody's website down? The people have the power. And you see this mega upload guy that's been arrested. They're just trying to scare everybody. They're making an example of him because he does come across as flamboyant. He does call himself Mr.com or whatever. He's the perfect person to pull down off that pedestal, because people don't like successful people, and if they can spin his character to being a complete asshole, then people might go along with it. But I think they're just trying to make an example of him. You know, they're saying that he's responsible for all the piracy because people abused his system. Well, it's not his fault that people broke the law. It's not him breaking the law. They just utilized something he created. You know, do you blame the person who invented the gun because somebody kills an innocent person with a gun? Well, I guess that could be an argument, but you know, I know there are a lot of pro-gun people in the alternative movement as well. But all Mega Upload was a place where you upload files, send things to your work colleagues, put up some of your own music, do whatever. Copyright law still applies to the people uploading it. They took down a lot of illegal stuff. When they were told to, they took down things that they missed. They went after the guy because, you know, he's not part of the club. YouTube has thousands of illegal videos on there. But because deals have been made, money transferred hands, they've realised they can make a lot of profits off ads on videos and things like that. YouTube's basically got off the hook. They had a lot of money to help themselves out to begin with. They're safe. Money talks. And I mean, you can talk about deleting websites for linking to copyrighted material. What the hell do you think Google does? If I want to download an illegal, you know, a copyrighted TV show or film, the first thing I do is go to Google and type it in, and it'll come up, and I click on it. If that's not providing links to copyrighted material, I don't know what is. They're the worst of anybody. But again, they have the money, they're part of the club, they've been here for a long time. And I know Google and Wikipedia, etc., you know, they kind of presented themselves as anti-SOPA. But that doesn't mean they're for the little guy. That doesn't mean Google's about to give up its monopoly. That doesn't mean Wikipedia all of a sudden is going to stop, you know, spreading bullshit, you know, mainstream media propaganda. That's all they do. You know, oh, you've got the video proof on YouTube or whatever of something that happened, so you try and edit Wikipedia and say, that's not a good source, it has to be BBC or something. Well, how open is that? Just mainstream media propaganda. But they'll probably try and come back with a reworded bill, renamed somehow. Google will probably jump on board with it, even though it's probably exactly the same. We'll just have to wait and see how that goes. 15 minutes left. Before we run out, let's go to this week's New World Order quote of the week, where we go to the mainstream and look for admissions and quotes and articles that suggest some people somewhere are pushing for global governance. Centralized decision making away from the people. And we go to the Sun Herald, a local newspaper for one of the US states. Pace University establishes Center for Global Governance, Reporting and Regulation. But I thought global governance was a conspiracy theory. New York, at a time when European financial uncertainty is underscoring the impact of international business and economies on the US, the Lubin School of Business at Pace University has established a Center for Global Governance, Reporting and Regulation. Yeah, because we need global governance to save us from the global crisis. Right, yeah, we've not heard that before. John Allen Jack James, a Lubin professor and a major proponent of the teaching of comparative corporate governance, has been named the centre's inaugural executive director. James brings the centre over 40 years of experience as an author and consultant in Europe, Asia and the US, and as an instructor at leading European business schools including INSEAD, CEI, IMD, and the Northwest Kellogg European Management Program. In the United States, he has been a guest lecturer at the Wharton School of University, blah, 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 blah. Beginning February 2nd, the new Lubin Center is offering a 6-month program leading to a new Certified Compliance and Regulatory Professional tongue-tied blah-de-blah certificate. The center also is planned to be an academic setting for professional organizations, business leaders, and policy makers to exchange views on key issues facing world economies. It will provide thought leadership on current and emerging issues, conducting independent research and disseminating the findings, sponsoring guest speakers, and blah-de-blah. Just what we need. Another think tank, another talking shop, where a bunch of elitist morons can get together and talk about global governance that, of course, doesn't exist. I mean, aren't there enough of these think tanks by now? You can find 100 just Googling right now, probably. It's not just the CFR and all that. There's hundreds, thousands, maybe. At no time in history have international governance and regulation been more important to the business, government and public sector than they are today, said Neil S. Braun, the former president of NBC Television Network and chairman of Viacom. Yeah, Viacom is one of the largest media conglomerates in America. Of course, none of their TV outlets have ever really discussed the New World Order that this guy wants so badly, because it's a conspiracy theory. Changes in the already complex regulatory system are occurring daily in nations around the world, Braun said. The European Union is requiring new and tighter regulations, and the meetings of the G20, the IMF, and the Bank for International Standards are introducing numerous new ideas for achieving convergence and establishing a level playing field across the globe. Future business leaders must be prepared for a global regulatory labyrinth, and Lubin is building upon its track record in teaching comparative governance. They just ramble about nonsense. James, an international expert on how corporations are governed, founded Management Counselors International, a Belgian corporate. Yeah, I can't be bothered with this anymore, folks. Basically, what they're saying is we need to come together and figure a way to streamline the power across the world for our corporations, because there's different regulations in different countries. We can't have that. It needs to be all the same. Can't let people decide what's going to happen in their countries. Have we got time? There's one more article, quite a pessimistic article, but something that's not surprising. It's from Bloomberg. Experts expect major geopolitical disruption, survey says. A survey of 345 global experts from business, government, international organizations and academia found most expect a major geopolitical disruption in the next year, according to the World Economic Forum. The World Economic Forum. There's another talking shop wanting global governance. The percentage expecting a major disruption rose to 54% from 36% 3 months ago, the Geneva-based forum said today in an email statement. A geopolitical disruption refers to a political clash that has international implications, such as a terrible conflict, terrorist act, or civil war. Well, I guess we could have a civil war in America, some more false flag terror, and a war with Iran. Lovely. Most respondents remained pessimistic about the global economy, and 60% lacked confidence in global governance or the ability of political leaders to deal with risks, unchanged from 3 months earlier, the survey found. The possibility of a geo-economic disruption, such as a sovereign default, is to some degree reflected in the market, but a major geopolitical disruption clearly is not. The respondents are members of the forum's network of global agenda councils. Oh my god. There seems to be a lot of these supper clubs, folks. I really don't understand. I mean, is all the elite do? Is that all they do? Just eat supper? Their network of global agenda councils? Oh dear. I've had enough, folks. That pretty much wraps it up this week. Be sure to come back in 30 minutes for Blue Bus and the Reality Check show. But from me, we're going to go to some Aerosmith, because I think they had it right. They said, eat the rich. Cheers, everybody.
If you found the preceding information valuable, please consider buying a DVD or making a small donation of your choosing. Go to wideshut.co.uk/donate. That's wideshut.co.uk/donate. You are the resistance.